It's snowing. Merry Christmas.
No, nobody need to hear that. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Moore? Mrs. Thompson? Here. Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Bittner?
Here.
Ms. Wall? Here. Mr. Lunder?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
We'll start with the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of council for March 11th, 2025. There are a couple corrections that needed to be made. One is to correct on the attendance. Mrs. Thompson was present, not absent. That being carried over from the previous meeting. Also to amend in the section where it said the finance department eliminate $7,985. I should have read $79,085. Is there any other additions or corrections to those minutes?
This is March 11th, sorry.
Yes.
This is the one where 3 vote tallies should be correctly and accurately reflect the abstentions. There were the 2 votes to amend the February 25th minutes and the vote to amend 2025-0-07. The votes were 6 yay, 1 no, and 6 yes, 0 no's, and 1 abstention, and they are all tallied as 6-1-0. Those should all be changed to 6-0-1.
Okay. But in addition to that, then if you're going to do that, then also change the order of how it's written out. The text and tally. Because right now it says nays, yays, abstentions, and nays.
Right, then the roll call votes ought to read ayes, noes, and abstains in that order, and list the tally as the same order.
Yeah. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Is there a motion to make those amendments?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Gray, second by Mrs. Thompson. Roll call, please, on the amendments.
Mrs. Thompson? Aye. Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bittner?
Aye.
Ms. Wall?
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve as amended now?
Motion to approve as amended.
Motion made by Mr. Gray, seconded by Mr. Lunder. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson? Aye. Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bittner?
Aye.
Ms. Wall?
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
All right, now for the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of council, March 25th, 2025. There is one correction I found, and that is to amend the vote tally for the passage of 2025-0-08 from 6-1 to 7-0. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
One other question.
Yes.
Does a reason for entering into executive session require recording in minutes?
We probably should have that in there.
And the motion made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by myself to enter into executive session to discuss the topic of pending litigation.
Yes. Did it catch there? Is there a motion to amend, to make those amendments?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Wong,
Second.
second by Mr. Lunder. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson? Aye. Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bittner?
Aye.
Ms. Wall?
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Motion to approve as amended.
So made.
Second.
Made by Mrs. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Gray. Roll call.
Thompson. Aye. Mr. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Ms. Wall.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Correspondence. Clerk, do you have any correspondence this evening?
I do not.
Does any member of council have correspondence they wish to share tonight? Okay. Move on to administrative department head reports. Marine Safety Director, Mr. Eva, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson, I'm council here this evening. Just to follow up on Mrs. Thompson's request, Ryan Smalley from Division will develop a scope and fee for implementation services and grant writing. I should have that in the next couple of weeks. The ribbon cutting and grand opening for Green's Landing is scheduled for Wednesday, April 16th. I don't have a time yet, but I will pass that information along to council and when I can get that information. NOPAC will send out sometime in mid-April, and I did get an update from my report last night. They're going to send out electric and natural gas prices for all of our residents. I know that for the gas, there will be prices for a 3-month period beginning in June, or a 12 to 24-month period starting in May. For the gas, they will offer a monthly variable product or fixed-term products. So that's just the usual yearly, sign up for gas and electric. The Monroe Lake Firefighters Association annual Easter egg hunt will be on Sunday, April 13th, starting at noon at Lake Elementary School. Some utility issues have delayed the Southland Storm Sewer project. We're waiting on the contractor to give us an updated schedule again for, and Mr. Barber will be in a little more of the details there. The next comprehensive plan steering committee meeting of the division is Thursday, April 17th at 7 p.m. The fire department report for March, there were 123 calls for service, 29 fire service calls, 94 rescue EMS calls. Of those 94 calls, 8 calls were in this. There was 1 call that required Narcan. Department training topic was OB emergencies. Department shift drills for March. EMS did pediatric emergencies. Fire did vehicle rescue and extrication. Hands-on training was care and use of rescue tools. Fire sprinkler inspection, they did Giant Eagle in March. Fire suppression testing was done at McDonald's, Ale House, and KFC. Fire safety inspections were done at Convenient, Little Caesars, Skill Zone, Jennifer and Company, Eckley's Laundromat, Chase Bank, Ninja Sushi, Ale House, Spuddy's, Papa Smokes, Boston Oil, and Ken's Beverage. Department members who are part of the Lake County Hazard Intervention Team also attended training in March, and also those who are part of the Lake County Fire Investigation Team also attended training in March. The year-to-date first quarter of 2025, there were a total of 324 calls for service, 90 fire rescue calls, fire service calls, 234 rescue EMS calls. Of those 234, 24 calls for input assist and 1 call for required Narcan. Thank you for this report.
Great, thank you. Administrative Director, Ms. Martin, good evening. Can you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
Linden, the potholes were patched last week, and the Aqua is still on site as their last step is filling in the dirt and planting the seeds right now. So as soon as that's done, service will re-review the condition of the street once all of the large construction finishes. The gap auditor was in today, which will conclude the first half of the audit. The second portion kicks off in a couple of weeks. The gentleman we ordered the wooden signs from assured me that he will be ready to install the signs in the next couple weeks. And as for McMinn Park, not only was that fence rotted out, but we also have some trees that need to be removed as well, and we're in the process of doing Oh, I have one more thing, sorry.
Mhm.
Also, when I was looking over the meeting minutes, on the website, I noticed under administrative director, it states Ms. Martin read her report and it will be included in the minutes. But the report never makes it into the signed minute portion. This is on 4 different occasions, and then I printed them out when I go back and add them.
Were they not in the copy that was sent out to everybody electronically? Because I thought they were.
Some were in the draft that was sent out, but like when you before you guys agreed to sign it, like the final version. Most of them were, but 4 of them were not.
Okay, yeah, if you could tell us which ones.
Yeah, I have them here.
Put in there. All right. City engineer, Mr. Parker, good evening.
Good evening. Just a quick update. I think the mayor mentioned the Southland drainage project. As you've seen, Severino's on the process of mobilizing out to the site. They've actually got the topsoil strip to drop down. Got a piece of equipment over there. They are starting to mobilize and come out and start the project. There are 2 utility conflicts. One's going to be gas company. The gas is going to be relocated for next week of the following week. So that will be out of the way. There are still issues with the power poles. First interview is out. They're going to brace the poles so that when there's excavation done near them, they're not going to be the poles in jeopardy. First interview also noticed that several poles need to be replaced, so they didn't make that at the same time. One other item is Overlook Beach Park. The erosion that continues to happen is now getting pretty close to the playground. If you go look at it from the side, got a subsurface seepage coming out. That's where you're losing the soil's coming from. And if you go back, generally, you kind of 1-to-1 slope to be saved, but puts a grade in, like a grade in place. So I think talking with the mayor, probably best that we close that, place that down at this point, just because I think there's a hazard, and we don't want to conduct over and over. It looks for happens. So we'll write a letter. I just went to the season, so we're going to let her just document everything and send a picture of the law. So that's in the finals.
Okay. Questions for the administration? Stop.
On the playground equipment, are we gonna remove that temporarily until we get that shored up, until we get that process, or? I mean, cause I think, I don't know, is removing it the best thing to do, or leaving it and just roping it off and hoping nobody plays on it?
My idea would be to remove it because it is old and just being so close to that edge, we don't want anybody to go over the edge and stuff like that. So we'll take it down. I know it's, the weather's going to get nice, but we don't want anybody to get hurt down.
Anyways, because the way the event is, it's like moving back, so it's gonna have to come down at some time.
How many signs do we have left that they need to install? Just 2. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Mr. Gert?
I have a question. What year was the last installment of the fence around McMinn put in? Social media buzz actually went over there and looked at it. And as my understanding, the intent is to remove it. The whole length.
That's brought it out, it's just, it's just, when the wood starts rotting, correct,
We were worried about post rot and the fence.
Well, some of the posts apparently rotted, some of the posts were replaced and scattered over time.
We've done a cost benefit analysis to patch it up until council and city appropriates money to do everything. Because I actually walked the fence Saturday and my count was 5 posts and 3 panels on the residential side and 4 panels and 7 posts on the apartment side. That would be immediate
remediation versus total annihilation and ideology. It's been there, so the residents have had comforts in the apartments, balls, soccer. I know the Woodside area where the bleachers are at the soccer field, that's kind of isolated. But from the parking lot side, there's evident 2 panels missing. I mean, 2. There's 1 leaning, 1's cracked at the bottom, and then 2 are vacant.
Is that they'll rot. Sorry. There's 5 trees that are also rotted, so like in general, sometimes when something starts to rot, then it just keeps going. And that's the biggest issue, and then even if it's got to the point where they are also rotted. So I just think that scenario is best for an issue. If you don't fix it, that way, whatever things you put off, also, good to go.
Is there an estimate, do you have just a general idea of what percentage of the fence that's there now, plus the trees, that would have to come down? Is it 30%, is it 50%, is it 75%, is it all of it? What's the option?
Park that side, which is the front of the housing side. I would recommend the character section. Because there's 5 trees over there and rotted areas in there. It's not gonna get any better.
Are you referring to the parking lot on
Parking that side.
Marine side? Yes, right.
Yeah.
Behind us, right? Yeah, that fence, it's
It's even with the costs and benefits, but the piecemeal and then go back, come back 2 years from now and have to replace what we did already.
right.
I don't think that's cost effective. And the letter went out today, it's some spring, as I put in there. We're gonna try to do this, the takedown and put back up as quickly as possible, because some of the residents have pets over there, and, plus the idea of having an open area like that, we know that the foot traffic through that park is nothing sometimes but people that are damaging the fence or other things in the park. So I want to make sure people on Springwood are protected with that fence up. And if they want to put a fence on their property before our fence, that's kind of the meaning of it too. Go ahead and do that. We're still going to put the fence all the way down from, for those residents.
Yes, Mr. Orders. Why does council have to find out about letters that are being sent out on a Friday on social media? Why were we not allowed or told about this fence problem? And then all of a sudden, social media blows up and nobody has an answer.
That's been addressed. That's been which that someone has addressed. To stop it or to edit it.
And why didn't we get the letter?
I didn't. Oh.
Well, so somebody that works for you is doing something that you told them to do. Wait, let me talk. You said, you told somebody to draft that letter and send it out, and you didn't even get a copy of it or read it. Correct?
That was addressed.
Correct. Thank you.
My only question would be, when we send out these kind of letters, can we do them like the beginning of a week? Because as someone who received a letter from the city, 12 years ago or whatever, that about a tree issue in my tree lawn, I received it on a Friday of a holiday weekend where I had questions and couldn't contact the city because it came on a Friday. So it would be much better if it came on a Monday because, I didn't really appreciate my letter and it ended up with me sitting up here and annoying everybody. So, it's preferred if they get it early in the week so that if there is a question and it can be addressed with the city in business hours rather than exploding onto social media and, spending an entire weekend worrying about what they have to do or can't do. So if we can try and do that, get letters out on a Monday or a Tuesday so that there's ample time for people to reach out to the city and get clarity on what the problem is, that would be ideal.
Or mail it on
Or we might have an entire council full of people get letters. If we can do that, that would be great. Because I know I would have appreciated that at that time. Any other questions? Okay, then we will move on to board committee commission reports. Ordinance committee.
Ordinance committee met on March 31st at 7 p.m. Present was Ms. Long, Mr. Bittner, myself, Chief Forsythe, Chief DeChasco, Mr. Johnson, Michelle Moore, nope, not Michelle Moore, sorry, and Mr. Lunder, Resident Paul Morse. The mayor had asked the committee to look at ordinance 250.08 subsection F and G. We noticed a typo that subsection D referenced 12 holidays when subsection A and subsections 1 through 11 state 13 holidays. The committee suggested that this be corrected to 13. The committee also suggested that subsection G that currently states employees of the police, fire, communication department shall be entitled to 12 holidays, 13, be taken at any time during the calendar year upon prior approval of their department head. Holidays are not cumulative and must be taken annually. These holidays are replacement for the holidays listed in subsection A hereof, which shall be working days for some members of the police, fire, communication departments at no additional pay. We recommend to council that it should state full-time, non-union employees of the police, fire, and communication departments, police chief and fire chief shall be entitled to 13 days holidays to be taken at any time during the calendar year upon the prior approval of their department heads, and everything else would be the same following after that. So we felt that making the change would make it easier for everybody. We also discussed e-bikes and the ordinances. It was more or less of a brainstorming situation or meeting that we had. We will be creating our own ordinance, which will include references from the ORC codes and other local communities regarding impounding, age restriction, helmets, and safety. We adjourned at 8:30 p.m.
Planning and zoning commission.
Planning and Zoning Commission met last evening, April 7 at 6 p.m. In attendance were commission members Sweeney, Leonard, Weisenberger, and Long, along with Mayor Eva and Mr. Snyder. Absent was Commission Member Casey. Also in attendance were Council President Johnson, Council Vice President Moore, and Council Member Lunder. During the election of 2025 officers, the commission elected Mike Sweeney as chair and Gary Leonard as vice chair. The commission also elected to appoint Kim Weisenberger as the Planning and Zoning Commission's representative to the CRA Housing Council. Suggested revisions to the 2025 rules were discussed and agreed upon. A final copy will be distributed for review and formal approval at the next meeting. And finally, as requested by council, the rationale and proposed changes contained within 2025-0-09, an ordinance amending section 1280.05A residential of chapter 1280 conditions of parking areas were reviewed, and the commission voted to recommend that council proceed with approval as written. The meeting was adjourned at 7:43 p.m. with the next regularly scheduled commission meeting on Monday, May 5th at 6 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Were there any other board committees or commissions that met that are not listed here? Hearing none, we will now open this up to the public to speak. If you would like to speak, please come to the lectern, state your name and address for the record. This is your opportunity to present your concerns or issues to council. It is not a back and forth with council, though we may answer questions or have the administration answer questions if we feel appropriate at that time. If you'd like to speak, please come to the lectern, state your name and address.
Just here.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Amy Winter. I'm 593 Springwood. Just wanted to touch base on the fence issue and thank you, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Moore, for being back to you guys, and I am. So what I'm hearing, you guys will be replacing the fence. Do we know when?
Our process would be to go out and get food beds, and then from there, okay,
Okay, are the trees coming down first? And then the fence?
yes, that's
Okay.
the trees in the park.
Now, if I want to go put up a no dig fence, where the fence is coming down until the other one comes up, would it be like in a week after the post fence? And then you guys start putting up the fence maybe by. I know it's hard to say, I'm just trying to get a rough estimate.
Good, what you're doing is putting, what your best.
Yes, because I have a dog. It should be coming close to people, but for the police,
Yeah, and, if you may have got my letter today, we hope that from taking it down and putting it back up, it's gonna be a short period of time. But, I understand that it could get, but we hope that, again, it's a short period of time between taking it down and putting it back.
Now, do I need to do a permit for my fence? Or do I have to pay for a survey to come out to see where my water line is? I just don't want to get sidetracked or, something thrown at me. And, I know Council PG probably will not, pay for that, as I was told to check, by, Jennifer, that's the manager. So, do I need to get a permit for a big fence? Do I need a survey?
We do, well, I can tell you in general, we make sure that the resident knows where the property ends are.
I just could go down by my neighbor's, fence and, where they're put up, but if I put one up and then you guys come and inspect it, am I gonna be a problem because I just want like that? What I'm asking, do I need, people, somebody, supervision like fence up, or the fence?
I would call, Mr. Snyder here, and he could maybe come out and take a look at what you have first before you spend any money on it. Okay?
Mr. Bender had a question for you. Question, the fence you're talking about putting up is a temporary,
Yeah, it's just.
just something to put up as a temporary.
Just to keep my dogs away from the people.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to click on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, temporary, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Like I
So
said,
I didn't know if I needed to get a permit, if I needed a survey to come out, make sure it's right.
like I said, a visit comes down and then the next day or the same day. So,
I do appreciate you guys, going back and seeing, I'm sorry about the communication between you guys and freaking us all out. That was uncalled for. I didn't appreciate that at all. Trying to think what else I did. When was that fence put in, you guys? No, I thought we were here, Jeff, when
it's about 25 years ago.
about, started sleeping. So, that's,
It may have been.
yeah.
We, like I said, through, vandals that have come through there, we replaced so much of that fence over the years.
Right. I appreciate you guys got it right on. Okay. That's it, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak tonight?
Diane Spizzolo, I'm at 5932 Springwood Drive. And again, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Johnson again for responding to my emails as well. Yeah, we were blindsided Friday when we all received those letters. Amy and I were up here at City Hall trying to get some answers Friday afternoon. It was very convenient for Chuck, well, I'm not sure his last name, to not be here that day to answer questions from residents. I would like to know why is there such a big disconnect between this side of the room and this side of the room? I am probably the longest resident on Springwood Drive. I moved into my home 40 years ago this August. That fence has been there longer than 25 years. My guess is probably closer to 35 years. The city has maintained it for all this time. And I would like to know if there's any way, Jacqueline told us that this was first brought up to council back in at the end of the year, I believe she said. So we're going on 4 months now. What have we been working on getting bids to replace the fence up until this time? And is there any way that you can leave sections of the fence up? Because like probably 75 to 80% of our street own pets and their backyards are completely fenced in or have pools that, they have to be fenced in. So is there any way we can keep our sections up or whatever till the fence is completely replaced? So I just, in my city disappoints me sometimes. And, I would just like answers to those questions.
We will work to get the new one up as soon as possible. And in my letter that went out to you today, I apologize for any inconvenience. And like I said, the timing of it, take the old one down, put the new one up as soon as possible.
I appreciate your apologies and whatnot, but from the first letter to this letter, it was a complete 180. And it's very aggravating.
Thank you for coming.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
I found my one now. Okay, so I was told that it wasn't in the budget this year, that maybe next year. And to go ahead and put up a fence by January. Where did we find the money? Where did we take that money from? What else in the city is not going to be fixed if you guys just happen to find the money to keep the families streets and for fence?
What was that?
So
We'll find the money,
Yes.
is the answer. We will find the money.
but something else in our city isn't going to wait.
We don't appropriate every dollar that we get because we know there's going to be things that come up that we don't anticipate or unplanned for.
Right.
So we will find the money. It's not an issue. We will do that.
I just didn't want to see that take away from something else that they already.
No, this is a priority.
Would anyone else like to speak tonight? Absolutely.
Health Fleet 5956 Springwood. I want to clarify trees being cut down. So are you surveying for which trees need to be cut down? Or
We went out to survey, we were not tree professionals, but that there's 5 trees. The trees are too big for us to take them down, by our service department with them, so we had calls out to tree professionals. We also, had a look at all the trees to make sure maybe also has or something to make sure that the trees that we do have left there are not going to be dry. Because I know sometimes trees, once one gets sick,
and I can tell you, it was a tree during the last storm that knocked down that panel, that the big branches laying on the panel. So it's definitely a tree issue for, how long all those trees are. So I just want to clarify that. I think they asked a lot of good questions. We really want to hear from Springwood that you're going to take quick action on this. Once we will replace it, and then we're meeting back 12 months from now, still asking. So, and this is my first meeting. Unfortunately, this issue had to bring me here, but I am also disappointed to see it's very evident disconnect between all members in here. So it is disappointing. I just want that to be noted.
Here. Would anyone else like to speak tonight? None. We will close this portion open to the public to speak. We'll now move on to legislation before council. Before we get to that, there were 2 additional items that were submitted, but they were submitted after the deadline, and I decided to withhold them. Okay, I'm going to explain why I withheld them. But council can choose to amend the agenda to include them at our discretion. So neither item I thought was particularly urgent. The administration has been aware of the deadline, and we have been lenient with late submissions as we adjusted to the new deadline. At the beginning of the year, I clearly communicated that while we were open to occasional late items, we wanted that to be the exception, not the rule. Unfortunately, it's become kind of the norm, and this concern was addressed directly to the mayor. We talked about this in our meeting. We set a 12 p.m. Wednesday deadline for several important reasons. The primary catalyst for this was to accommodate the clerk of council's schedule, given her full-time job, which should naturally be her priority over her part-time responsibility serving the city. The new deadline also provides council president and vice president time to review the submissions ahead of putting them on the agenda, which allows us to return items for correction as needed. For example, I think we all recall the resolution appointing Mike Sweeney to a board, but the resolution mistakenly named Al Busher Threat. So we had to sit here and amend that, but that could have been corrected had we had that in advance, which is one of the nice things about having those items at noon on Wednesday, so that we have time to do that, send it back, get it corrected. Furthermore, the deadline gives us time to ensure that any supporting information is included in the agenda package. I think we all remember the need for additional background information regarding the last law director after the resolution confirming the appointment was received. Additionally, since we no longer have a law director attending agenda meetings, the deadline allows us time to confer with the law director if there are any questions about any of the proposed legislation that's being brought up. In the past, the law director would simply just hold back legislation if concerns were raised at the meeting, at the agenda meeting. The deadline also gives us time to gather additional information when legislation is unclear. I think many of us remember the static display resolution or ordinance that we had previously. That was about the artillery. None of us knew what the heck a static display was. It was the artillery. We need to know what these things are before we decide to put them on the agenda. So being able to ask that question ahead of an agenda meeting is beneficial. And while we may not catch every mistake, we're not going to add up the numbers of the budget ordinance and make sure that they all add up like they should. The deadline allows us to address the obvious mistakes and get them corrected before we actually send it out to the public and to the rest of the council for you guys for consideration at the next meeting. Ultimately, our deadline ensures that the public receives accurate and correct information. While I understand that the administration previously had a 5 p.m. Thursday deadline for agenda items, we should focus on moving forward and improving our processes, not on past practices. Our actions should always prioritize providing the best and most accurate information for council consideration, rather than being concerned with the inconvenience the deadline may cause. So we did have the 2 additional items. One was the expenditure for the fire truck. The other was a resolution declaring the month of April for child abuse awareness. So if anybody wishes to make an amendment to amend the agenda, we can do that, or we can save those for the next meeting. My inclination, especially on an expenditure, would be to save it for the next meeting. Yes, Mr. Lunder.
I want to talk about that expenditure.
It's not on the agenda.
Huh?
It's not on the
I
agenda.
know. I want to put it on the agenda. Number one, I'm still waiting for 2 other bids on that fire trucks. Don't have them. I'm not going to vote on anything until I see 3 bids.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to say on this before we move on?
Do we have a copy of the resolution about April being Child Abuse Prevention Month? Because we leave that to the next meeting. April is just about over. Not sure.
I
if we
have
can-
one copy and nothing else.
Not sure how we can amend the agenda to consider something that we don't have a copy of. So.
We'll add it to the next agenda meeting. We've done it late before. It's not unusual.
Doesn't mean we don't
I know.
feel that should happen, but
We should probably have passed it in March to declare for April.
probably.
Would be the appropriate thing, but
That-
it is what it is. Anybody else before we move on to ordinance number 2025-0-07? Okay, ordinance number 2025-0-07. Please read it by its title.
Ordinance number 2025-0-07, amended March 11th, 2025, third reading. Ordinance amending chapter 893, community reinvestment area of the codified ordinances of the city of Meadow on the Lake.
Okay. Discussion on this. Any motion on this? On third reading tonight.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Wong, seconded by Mrs. Thompson for passage. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bittner,
Abstain.
Ms. Wong?
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Ordinance number 2025-0-09. That has come back from planning and zoning. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The recommendation. So, is there any discussion on this tonight? Actually, you read it by its title, please.
Ordinance number 2025-0-09, referred to Planning and Zoning Commission, second reading. Ordinance amending section 1280.05A residential of chapter 1280 conditions of parking areas of the codified ordinances of the city of Mentor on the Lake, Ohio.
Any discussion on this tonight?
I don't think that we've actually discussed this yet. I just wanted to make sure that since this is a zoning committee issue, that you all had the background and the rationale behind it. So to summarize, this was an effort to provide standards for materials used in driveways and parking surfaces in residential areas, residential lots, as a way to work toward improvement of the appearance of our neighborhoods by requiring uniformity of the materials used when creating new parking pads or enlarging existing driveways, and also to move toward
preference for more durable materials, in increasing order of gravel than asphalt than concrete. Essentially, what this does is allow anyone's current driveway surface to remain as such until the point at which it is altered, enlarged, replaced, etc. At which point it either has to be done so with the existing material and remain the same, or a different material is chosen. It needs to be, it is one that is more durable and that you can't go the opposite direction. So the gravel could be replaced with gravel, asphalt or concrete. Asphalt could be replaced with asphalt or concrete. Concrete can be replaced with concrete. Those were the principal points behind creating these changes to the ordinance. And I'd be happy to field any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments today?
So if I have to replace my driveway that is currently concrete, you're stating I have to do concrete. At that cost, do you realize what that would do to some of these residents?
So that was something, obviously, cost was
It's huge.
discussed. What we were trying to avoid was exactly that. It's exactly drilling up concrete and then replacing with gravel. Particularly as some neighborhoods in the city were designed and built as all concrete to then begin introducing mixed materials. So again, it's an appearance of a neighborhood that came into consideration, and that this would be considered the expense of having a concrete driveway. It also, by the way, applies to aprons, such that if an apron is disturbed for access to the right of way, it has to be replaced with a light material, so that your concrete apron can't be replaced with a driveway by the contractor.
I support that. I support having, if you're adding on to your driveway, keeping it consistent with the material. To tell somebody you have to do concrete, I'm not being supportive of that.
You have a concrete driveway. You need to replace part of your concrete driveway. You don't have to replace the entire concrete driveway. You replace the part that's broken.
That is correct.
That is not this huge expense that you're talking about, because then you're replacing your entire driveway with asphalt. Then
I will tell you an example of where this just came into play. Somebody sold their house. The concrete driveway was deemed at the point of sale as they had to rip out the entire thing and replace it. The cost they got to repair or replace that driveway was replaced. This would be for future, not for what is there now, was astronomical. They did rip it out and put stone in. I just see this could be a problem in those cases. That is, concrete driveways are expensive.
they are, but they also last a long time.
If done correctly.
Yes, they're done correctly. Yes.
Yes.
If you have an asphalt driveway, you can keep your asphalt driveway. But if you live on Springwood Drive, for instance, where all the driveways are concrete,
Sure.
you don't randomly want somebody to have a gravel driveway or an asphalt driveway. I mean, all of a sudden you've deteriorated the rest of the neighborhood by having a random driveway material. Anything else on this tonight? Not, it will go on to third reading. Resolution number 2025-R-14, if you please read it by its title.
Resolution number 2025-R-14, a resolution confirming the appointment of Natalie N. Schultz, Law Office of Rubsell, as Law Director and Assistant City Prosecutor, affirming the contract, determining compensation, and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, would you like to introduce?
Yes, and Schulte, the law firm was Retzel.
Thank you. I don't think it's
That's okay. I got it wrong the first time too. It's Bob. Natalie has represented several cities as an assistant law director all throughout Northeast Ohio. And now she has an opportunity to be the law director here in Glen Oaks.
Okay. So we'll start with some questions. First of all, welcome. Why do you want to be our law director?
Well, I have the experience to do so, and I saw this as a great opportunity to take the reins instead of just being the assistant law director. I can kind of be the lead and give you guys the most efficient opportunity through me and my firm. We have a lot of experience in cities throughout Northeast Ohio, Pennsylvania, kind of all over the place, and we are really looking to expand out here in Monroe on the Lake, and I just really feel prepared and ready that I want to do this.
And you're coming from Akron, is that correct?
Yeah.
Questions?
Did we ever receive any answers to the questions that you sent to administration?
No, I
I don't.
sent the mayor 3 concerns I had over the contract. Did not get a response back.
I didn't know that you were looking for a response. I thought we would talk about it here at council.
Okay, well, we can talk about it here, council. I mean, but there's still the same 3 concerns that I had over the contract.
I think your concerns were, which we will address as having a single point of contact. Is that?
So my concerns were that the law director can be requested to draft legislation by any council committee chair. It could be 2 members of council can request legislation be drafted, or it could come from the president or the vice president of council. The way it's worded right now in the contract doesn't specify that. It specifies the mayor, the administrative director, and the council president, which doesn't really fit with how our city operates. I was hoping that you would address this contract issue before we got to this, because I'm not going to vote for a contract that I don't agree with.
Well, and then if there's changes to the contract, we can take it today. But for me, there's been several instances where there's been divisions. I'm trying to reduce our legal expenses. And if the process is streamlined, which Schulte can speak to, I think we'll operate efficiently.
This is how our council rules currently exist. So if we were going to change this, it would have been good to discuss that before we just approved our council rules. But if Mrs. Schulte would like to speak on.
Yeah, so I mean, we represent a lot of cities, villages, townships, counties, for efficiency purposes and cost effectiveness. We have really found that the most useful way is to kind of have one point of contact. So it kind of, like the mayor said, it streamlines what work I need to do to get you guys the quickest, the best correct answers. If it's coming at us from several different areas or people, it just tends to take a little bit longer, and there's a lot of different sources coming in versus if we have just one. It's under the assumption that, okay, this is the collective thought. That's what we've just seen work very well in other places that we represent and do work for, but it is up to you guys.
Because as it is now, that isn't how council works at all. So a committee, for instance, the ordinance committee, may be drafting some legislation. It doesn't come to the council president before it would come to you. It would come directly from the ordinance committee chair. Or if it's coming from the zoning committee, it would be coming from the zoning committee chair, not the council president, because my role shouldn't be to say what they want to do. It's for them to decide what they want to do and draft and have their legislation drafted for their consideration, not for my consideration.
I also see how that has the potential to increase significantly the work on the president, because everything has to be shuttled through. So in terms of communication, then keeping track of communication and getting that back out to the committees who are actually doing work, I could see how it would be a more efficient and streamlined workflow for you, except it actually ends up adding an extra step
both directions in the workflow for us, which is a little odd considering that the chair of the committee is typically the one who knows where something is at a given time. We tend to communicate so that we're copied on things because, for example, for billing purposes, we need to make sure that the administration is copied on requests so that they can follow up on a request that was made and then whatever time is spent on it. We can keep track of where things are, but actually putting that request in the lap of somebody who's not involved in the writing of it, especially if there's a follow-up question or clarification is needed, seems a little bit awkward to me. That's my concern.
It's okay.
I also had a concern over 1A, which I believe it was, the part where the law director would attend any council meeting or special meeting of council unless otherwise directed by the mayor. The mayor isn't the one who gets to decide whether you come to a council meeting. Council will decide if you come to a council meeting. I mean, if the mayor wouldn't be able to say, no, I don't want you to go to that. Like, that's not the way this city operates, and it's definitely not how this council would operate.
Why would you agree that?
Whether you're the mayor or whoever the mayor is, I mean, if that's part of the contract, and if the next mayor coming in kept the same law, right, we'd have the same contract. I'm not saying you would do that, but I'm saying that it doesn't set a good precedent to have that in a contract if that isn't accurate. I mean, is that a fair statement?
I mean, the contract's for 1 year, so.
Right, but contracts around here don't tend to get revised very well, you know. We kind of just roll with the same contracts based on my past experiences, so.
I think it's more that if we have the direction for attending meetings, we left to the authority that has, oversight of those types of meetings. So board and commission meetings, I can see in one routine services B, attending other board and commission meetings upon the request of the mayor. I mean, you might add our chair of that board or commission, but for A, which is council, it seems to me that council ought to have the authority for attendance of regular and special meetings of council. That just seems to make more sense to me.
Questions from people? Comments from people? Anybody awake?
Well, I guess, and again, it's going to have to sort of, if you, I don't know how, I don't want to use the word insistent because that's right, how much you prefer the workflow the way you've been doing, or whether you think that the workflow that we're accustomed to might also work.
Well, I'm happy to, if that is what you guys prefer, that's what everyone wants to do, we absolutely can adjust. And like I said too, it's never set in stone process. So if at one point you guys are all like, okay, maybe let's try a different outlet, we're absolutely open to change. So it's totally your call.
I mean, we could see, we don't have so this is a new contract model for us, so we don't have sense yet for how many hours. 12 hours is in a month and how many additional. We tried to get a sense of that in the 2 months. We had a law director working under a similar type of contract, whether we exceeded the given hours in a month and then we're on an hourly basis. So I don't know that we have a good idea about whether our workflow is truly not cost effective. It's something we might find out, in which case I think we would be open to considering change.
Yeah. And I mean, that is also, again, something we can, after 6 months, and if you guys are like, no way, this isn't working for me, then.
I mean, I think it's just hard for us to, we've only been with that model for 2 months. I think it's a little bit tough for us to know whether that's going to be.
The other thing that I see too, is I know you said, you wanted to streamline, but then also in F, it says that they will respond to council inquiries. So for that instance, you know, streamlining it, how would that really be streamlining it if we're gonna run all the draft ordinances? You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like we're talking apples and oranges. It just seems a little different there.
Yeah, I guess in my experience, it's always just come through one person. So any inquiries you guys have to go through one individual that's contacting us. And it works for some places and it doesn't. Which I guess is just kind of up to you guys to figure out if that's.
I think too, the idea of, but yeah, to your point as well, about a new process, you guys, and also for us, where if we're aware of, and I think we decided that we copied on, you know, things so that at the end of the month, when we get an invoice, you know, we know exactly, we could reconcile what, you know, we can say, okay, this is what went to the ordinance committee, zoning committee, safety committee, and this is the hours that, you know, that they were to put this together. So, you know, we can reconcile that, okay, we know she's looked at, you know, 5 pieces of legislation, this is what it's cost us. That's really the intent, and I understand about, you know, the committees and things like that, but I think as long as we have, you know, a process that we know what we're getting and, you know, how many hours, things like that, which would be the development process.
Right. But then, like I said, in section F though, we bypass you.
Right.
So it's not really a streamline for, not the billing part.
Right.
Right.
But I guess if you don't wish to change C, to include, you know, our current workflow, which is, council committee chairs, the vice president acting as for the president, 2 members of council, which is what our council rules say, then I guess we're using F to make an inquiry. Sort of goes around that. I do know also that some of the boards and commissions in their rules have clauses that pertain to the law director, particularly that the chair of the commission can request attendance at a board and commission meeting, can request an opinion, or consult with the law director, and this contract would need to go through someone who is not necessarily, I guess, would need to go through the member of council, who's the council representative, because they would be excluded from making the request of the law director themselves.
And if we're gonna consider trying this, my suggestion is for C would be to add council vice president, because they take vacations. We all do, you know, and I think, having that extra third person in there, and city directors, but is that referring to administration?
Who are city directors?
Yeah, I mean, because we have administrator, I mean.
Again, I guess the reason the reason I think our workflow is comfortable for us is that we are also limited in the amount of email communication we can have between council members because of open meeting law. So we don't want to have a back and forth. If there happens to be one, again, if I'm directing my committee chair request through the president or the vice president, and there's an issue, they weren't at the last meeting, didn't understand what am I asking here, so whatever, that it's hard for me to clarify. Do you know what I mean? I've then generated a back and forth conversation, which is typically, I'd rather just have, you know, one way with the person who's providing the answer being, or the request is being made, everybody else.
Mr. Linder, you had something?
Yeah, I have a question. Response and turnaround time. We've had previous law director that sometimes it took them a couple of months. Respond. The last one we had, it was very fast and to the point. That's what my question is. So we need response time as quick as we can possibly get the response. so we can put it on the agenda.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely recognize that. And if I don't have an answer for you right away, I will at least respond and send you the document.
So my intention, until I see a revised contract that addresses my concerns, I'm just not gonna vote for the contract because it doesn't meet what I believe is council's working process. And the resolution is to confirm this contract, so I don't know how the rest of council feels, but and it's nothing about you personally, it's just the contract.
I would as well, to at least see how our workflow goes and if we can change there, but I'd like to continue the way we're operating. I agree. Well,
Yeah, it sounds like this will go on to second reading.
You can send me your visions.
Again, I said you what my concerns were. How you guys word it, I mean, that's up to you. I can send you my concerns were again. In which sections they were, it was all in the email. That's why I was hoping for a revised contract before we got here, so that those would be addressed. But old business, do we have any old business tonight? Any new business tonight?
I have a quick question. Before we put up the bid to our tree removal, are we going to facilitate an outsider, like mentors, arborists, who are available hourly to consult? And with the trees?
I think you can contact like Davy Tree and they do that for free. They're arborists. Because I've used them before when I had, somebody hit my house and needed a tree. So yeah, Davy Tree I know does that.
Okay, anything else under new business?
Just like to mention, thanks to Mr. Lunder bids for the fire trucks. Bring the folder that Chief Machasko provided to all council members.
At that very first meeting, that's the only ones that I saw.
There's two.
I didn't know those were actually bids. I just, he went on a computer somewhere and just pulled numbers in. See, this is the problem I have with fire. He goes and he's looking at not used units, but density. He's done that twice, so actually it's for the second time he's done. And then we're throwing numbers, what it is. Now, this particular memo I came out, it says it's a 19 or 25 model. Now, is that a demo? Or is it new? It doesn't say that. The only thing is 2025, we're 2025 only 3 units. And I would take that as a new one because of the big price increase. I'm just totally lost on what he's doing.
Okay. We're gonna now move on to open the public speak. If you'd like to speak, please come to the lectern, state your name and address for the record.
Jason Morris, 45 Lake Road. Just want to thank the members of the zoning committee and council that supported updating a blind spot in the CRA. Not just benefits me, but it could benefit other residents who are in similar situations. Feels like it's been a long road to get here, but again, I appreciate the support. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak tonight?
Okay, so with tearing down the trees in Jacqueline, when we talked Friday, you kind of freaked me out about turn lights or whatever. So,
I did say that, yeah.
no, you didn't. Oh,
That was bad.
well, you told me so. So if the trees have some kind of bugs or whatever, and do you guys spray after you guys cut down the trees?
That would be up to the recommendation of the tree company.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure how that works. And, you know, if one tree has bugs and termites, I was just afraid that they'd be coming over to my house and, you know, munching on my stuff. So I was wondering if there was any kind of pest control, and if there was. Would you guys send out a letter for our pets and our grandkids if they're out playing and then, you know, after you sprayed, I didn't know, and maybe you walked the park or something. You know, I just wanna make sure, because just like the, any animal or any, bugs are gonna trap. So I didn't know if it was a turn lights or whatever.
No, because like, you just know it's rotted, so it must be something. Don't know what that is. That pest control is definitely part of the process of the calling, asking for quotes and all of that. Or if the tree, people don't take care of that.
Now, would we get a notice and saying what may be caused to trees in case we get trees in our yards, so we know what to look for?
I know that what you said before, that, that like little flags, notify everyone. And that's true there.
And when the trees come down or whatever, are we gonna block off the entrance to the park? Or do we?
I think that would be for the tree person as well. I don't know. I don't know. If it's, I've seen equipment that was huge and that would be gas. And I've also seen people take down trees with fairly other things. So. I guess you'd probably be safe to at least not have anyone around. Obviously, it's a lot of
But you might let us know about, you know, what maybe caused the tree rot or whatever. And if we do spray, that's gonna let us know.
yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak tonight? Not everybody out at once. Shing and shoving. Okay. We will close this portion of the public speak. We will now move on to announcements, settings, and meetings. Next meeting for Parks and Recreation is Thursday, April 10th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. The Envision Steering Committee will meet Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at 7 p.m. The next regular meeting of council will be April 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. What committees are going to be meeting?
Like ordinance is ready to meet again.
June 14th.
Sorry,
The 14th, Monday.
the room is available. Monday, I'm okay with Monday. So April 14th, 7 p.m. Right away.
7 p.m.?
Yeah.
All right, April 14th, 7 p.m. is the ordinance committee. Okay, other meetings?
Zoning is awaiting legal opinions on everything on our agenda, so
Okay.
there's not that sense to meet right now.
Anybody else wish to meet? Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Lunder to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson? Aye. Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bittner? Aye. Ms. Wald?
Aye.
Mr. Lunder?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. We are adjourned. Yeah.
No,
Huh? What? Oh, you're sending it, oh, I thought you said Michelle sent it, she couldn't get in the meeting.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I said I was gonna send an email to administration about
Let's move on.
Yeah, I'll get you the names and sort that out.
Do you want to?
Yes, and I'll send you the funny picture. There's a link to. So,
Okay,
yeah, no,
so we need to sign.
like explain to both.
I was thinking I could let you see what